Hi, and welcome to Quarantine Cocktails with Chad and Nicole. This is our special Halloween edition.
If you can guess what we are, you are.
I am Andy Warhol.
And I am his muse, Edie Sedgwick. This week we are talking about the zombie cocktail. So the classic cocktail was created in 1934 at Don's Beachcomber in Los Angeles. So this complex drink resembles Planter's Punch in some ways, but it uses multiple rums, multiple syrups, multiple fruit juices, and other flavorings. This cocktail is considered to have inspired the tiki cocktail movement as well.
And here is the original classic zombie recipe.
There's a lot of ingredients.
Yes. So this cocktail's inventor went by the name Don Beach. He was born Ernest Gant in Louisiana and spent his early life as a drifter and gradually made his way to California, where he is alleged to have been a bootlegger and an operator of a speakeasy, of an illegal speakeasy named Ernie's Place in Hollywood. When Prohibition ended in December of 1933, he opened a legitimate bar in Hollywood under the name Don's Beachcomber.
So there he mixed drinks with rum as the primary spirit and is credited for inventing the zombie, also the Navy Grog, Three Dots, and the Dash, all cocktails, and many others, and created the tiki drink genre, although he called them rum rhapsodies at the time.
Yes. And in 1937, he moved the bar across the street and renamed it Don the Beachcomber, and also renamed himself Don Beach. This became a very popular location with Hollywood actors, with visits from luminaries like Marlene Dietrich, Bing Crosby, Clark Gable, and Vivian Leigh. He's also said to have become good friends with David Niven, who said Don was good-looking, philosophical, and raffish. He claimed that Don would travel tropical islands in the Pacific and the Caribbean and then return home to make drinks when he ran out of money.
So the zombie in particular captured popular imagination. It's a very strong drink with overproof rums, and that was part of its appeal, apparently. It was marketed to appeal to the male bravado. Who amongst you is tough enough to try this drink? Can you handle two? You definitely won't be allowed a third, is the quote.
Yep, that was their actual marketing slogan for the zombie. This drink and the popularity amongst Hollywood really launched it into full popular consciousness. And Beach's first wife, who changed her name to Sunny,
Sunny Beach?
Yeah, for a period of time. And she was his business partner. His initial business partner, and they divorced in 1940, but they kept up their business partnership, and she expanded the business by setting up a Don the Beachcomber in Chicago and in 1940 when they divorced, and then she grew it to a chain of 16 locations around the U.S. while Don served in the Army from 1942 to 1945. And when he returned from the Army, he actually signed over the rights to the entire U.S. business to Sunny.
Wow.
Yep.
He then headed over to Hawaii and established his own Don the Beachcomber in Waikiki, since Hawaii was not yet a state. There he continued his influence over the tiki cocktail movement and also developed his international marketplace in Waikiki into a major tourist destination.
That's right. So it's worth noting that Victor Bergeron, the other major figure in the tiki cocktail movement, was an admirer of Beach. And he converted his own local bar in Oakland, California, which he had opened before, using a similar formula and rebranded as Trader Vic's in 1937. Vic is credited with creating the Mai Tai in 1944. Although many, including Don Beach himself, allege that it was actually a knockoff of one of Beach's cocktails, known as the QB Cooler.
I like that name. In fact, Don's cocktails were often imitated in part because he jealously guarded his recipes, and so the exact formulas and ingredients were often unknown. This is why you will find a wide variety of cocktails passing under the name zombie for this cocktail in particular, most of which are simply a mix of cheap rums, random tropical fruit juices, and sugary syrups, and all which taste nothing like the original.
In fact, the original recipe that we're presenting today is available only thanks to the diligent work of Jeff Beachbum Berry, a tiki cocktail historian who, in 2005, after a 10-year search, unearthed a recipe dating back to at least 1937.
Wow.
That was found in the shirt pocket of one of Don the Beachcomber's early bartenders. The recipe had a reference to something known as Don's Mix, which he traced down in another notebook as 2 parts grapefruit juice and 1 part spices number 4.
Ooh. So Beach was so secretive about his special mixes that he had another company keep their formulas in a safe. And then he had them make up batches for his bartenders when needed, so none of them would even know what was in them. It took Barry an entire year to unravel the mysterious spices number 4, finally discovering that it was really just cinnamon simple syrup.
So here today, we try to get as close as we can to Don Beach's original zombie recipe, containing no less than 10 different ingredients. However, for those following along at home, we also have a simplified recipe, which was developed by Jeff Beachbum Berry as a close approximation of the flavor profile of the original, but using only 5 ingredients. All right, so there is the simplified zombie, but today we are going to be demoing the zombie insurrection, which is our attempt using the rums and things available today to reproduce the original Don the Beachcomber recipe, Don Beach's recipe. So we'll show you those ingredients. First, we'll start off with Smith & Cross Jamaica rum, which is a Navy strength rum from England, made in Jamaican style. That means it's got those funky flavors and brings out a little bit of pineapple and tropical fruit flavor within the rum itself. So there's the Smith & Cross. The next ingredient is another rum. Don was well known for layering different rums to come up with a very complex overall flavor profile. Here we are using the Bacardi Rum number 8, which is a gold style Puerto Rican rum. This Reserva Ocho has a lot of smoke notes to it. And so that brings its own flavoring. And then finally, we have the pièce de résistance, which is the Lemon Heart 151, which is a Demerara rum, hailing from the Demerara region in Guyana. And Lemon Heart is an old rum that goes back quite a long time and is what was used in Don's original recipe. Although the Lemon Heart briefly went off the market, I think around in 2017, and returned only that recently. So here is the Lemon Heart. There is also Hamilton 151, which was produced when Lemon Heart went out of business, a sort of fan version of Lemon Heart 151, and you can find that out there as well. But this is nothing like Bacardi 151. Please don't use Bacardi 151. Bacardi 151 really has just mostly burn and no flavor. This is actually quite nice. You can actually drink this without diluting it, and it's actually got a really wonderful caramely flavor profile. It is hot. It's 151 proof. But this is, not just good for lighting on fire, unlike Bacardi 151, which should probably just be lit on fire in its entirety. Next up, we have some of the other ingredients, which are more in the syrups. So we have something called Velvet Fallernum. So Fallernum is a flavoring from the Caribbean islands. Originally made with rum. In fact, it originally is essentially the recipe of Planter's Punch. So it's got rum, lime, sugar, and water, and then they added other flavorings. They dialed back the alcohol content. In fact, there's non-alcoholic Fallernum now, and you can even make your own. But we're going to go with this famous Barbados Fallernum, which was also what would have been used in the original recipe. And it's got some wonderful hints of lime and sugar, lime, and a lot of clove or allspice flavor to it. Quite delicious. We've got our essential, so we've got our homemade pomegranate grenadine, not the store-bought kind. And we've also got, of course, our secret spice mix number 4, aka cinnamon simple syrup, which we will be mixing with some white grapefruit juice to produce the famous Dawn's mix. And then we also have, this is so many ingredients, I can't even keep track of them all. We've got a little dash of Pernod. So we've got 1 dash of Pernod. The original recipe says 6 drops, but it turns out that's approximately a dash when you consider a dash to be 1/8 of an ounce. And Pernod, as we know, is a pastis. Pernod originally produced absinthe, but when absinthe became illegal, they switched to making pastis. And so this will give some wonderful anise notes. If you don't have this, you can try using some absinthe. Again, just a dash. And then we've got Angostura Bitters, of course, for that
The
famous Angostura for that Caribbean flavor profile. And we've got our white grapefruit and our lime. So white grapefruit hails originally from Barbados, where it is a hybrid of the Asian pomelo and also a Jamaican orange that actually came from an Asian orange as well. And so both Asian fruits that were hybridized in Barbados to produce the grapefruit. The name is a little bit mysterious. And grapefruit has some really interesting drug interactions, so you should read up on that. Not at the quantity we're using today, but if you drink a lot of grapefruit juice, you might be interested to learn about that.
All right, let's get mixing.
All right, so thankfully for all of you, we have already pre-mixed most of the drink. And so we actually don't have to, you don't have to watch me pouring each of these. Nicole will be fresh juicing the lime and the grapefruit. So we need this filled with the lime.
Okay.
And we only need 2 teaspoons of the grapefruit. So there's not a lot of grapefruit involved in this. So this is actually all the spirits portion. For Halloween, we've got the spirits going in our spirit glass. So that is quite a lot of rum. And you know, most of the rum is overproof, including a full ounce of 151 and an ounce and a half of that Navy strength Smith & Cross. Oof.
All right, what do you need?
All right, so here, I then have the syrup portion of our cocktail. We have the cinnamon syrup, of course, spice mix 4, the grenadine, and the velvet Fallernum, which has this low alcohol content, 11%. And then, and I also already mixed in the Angostura Bitters and the Pernod.
Close enough.
Yep.
And then you need 2 of these.
2 teaspoons, just 2 teaspoons of grapefruit juice.
Okay.
Get just a dollop more of that.
Okay.
All right, and then we need our crushed ice and our glasses.
And your saline.
Oh, and yes, don't forget the saline because we're using citrus, and so we always use saline. Just 2 drops of saline will bring forward the tartness and the sweetness of the citrus and cut out some of the bitterness, so that's wonderful.
Are you shaking this or stirring?
Okay, well, because we've got sugar and fruit juice, we are going to do some shaking. We're going to use crushed ice. So I've crushed ice ahead of time.
Okay.
because we're doing this tiki style, we're gonna lightly shake this. Since we're using crushed ice, it will dilute pretty quickly. So I'm just gonna make sure we get enough ice in here. And then so when we say tiki style, we're just gonna lightly shake it, not for more than maybe about 5 seconds. And then we're gonna pour the whole thing unstrained into our spooky tiki zombie glass. All right, that is good.
You do it over ice?
We're just going to pour the whole thing, including the ice, the ice that we chilled it with.
Oh, garnish with
And then we garnish
fresh mint.
with a sprig of mint, which was the original garnish. Maybe even just give it a little bit of a zhuzh to get some of the oils expressed out of it. And then we have our delicious original Dawn Beach zombie, as close as we can make it here, our zombie insurrection. What do you think about that?
It's nice.
And we will definitely be sharing this because that is a lot of booze. Want to give it a taste?
Do you dare have two?
No, not a good idea in my mind.
It doesn't hit you over the head with rum, surprisingly. It's got a lot of herbs and spice notes. It's very...
Yes, it's deceptive like that. But it's not overly sweet, as some of the versions are, and not overly tropical. It's pretty refreshing and deceptively strong. So, all right. Well, enjoy. Hope you have a wonderful Halloween, and join us at the happy hour if you can.